Hello, and welcome to After Plague. Now, firstly, I would like to wish you a happy Halloween, a happy Inktober, and that is what we are doing today. I'm going to be drawing the first 7 days of Inktober, except I hated the prompt list this year, and I will get further into that. Secondly, I would like to say right off the bat, this is going to be disorganized. All of my recordings are in different aspect ratios and recorded at different times, and sometimes I forgot to record the sketch. Oops, my bad. It'll get better, I promise. So, as you can see, I am not following the Inktober official prompt list. I thought the prompt list this year was oddly specific. It was very strange. I didn't like it very much. So instead, I'm following the Darktober prompt list as an alternative. And Darktober's day one prompt was alchemy. When I think of alchemy, the first thing I think of is potions, which I imagine is what a lot of people first think of. So I decided to do this little graveyard inside of a potion bottle. I have these tombstones, a couple skulls underground. I thought about doing additional bones, but when I started to add them and try and make sense of them, it felt a little bit too almost realistic when I was going for a little bit more of a stylized look with this potion, obviously. I also really this year wanted to focus on texture in my illustrations as well as contrast. So in some illustrations I will do this hatching that I'm doing on these gravestones right now, and in others I stick to more of a purely black and white, no hatching situation. So those were my primary goals for Inktober, as well as working quickly. Most artists, when they do Inktober, they actually prep their illustrations ahead of time. They spend, a lot of days of the year. They'll just pop in and say, hey, I might as well draw one day of Inktober today. That way they don't have to do all 31 days in October, 31 days in a singular month. I didn't do that. I probably should. I don't know why I didn't do that. It just never occurred to me that this is how artists actually draw. So I am on a major time crunch to get all of these done and still have time to do additional work in the meantime. So, as you can see, I'm adding in the last of the sort of texture to the bottle. This was an absolute nightmare. I don't know if you can see me trying to draw curved lines a billion times, but I did. And then adding in this spoke here, which was actually really fun. I really like this illustration. I think it turned out extremely well. So again, this is day one's alchemy. One of my favorites so far. I really enjoyed it. For day two, the prompt was spirit, and I considered a lot of different things that I could illustrate. Originally, the idea was that I was going to draw a wine bottle with a ghost coming out of it. Unfortunately, I don't typically ink very often, not traditionally or digitally, unless I'm doing some sort of other painting or effects or colors on top of it. So when I was trying to think about how I would make a ghost, I didn't want it to look cute. Most of my Inktober illustrations this year, I am aiming for a more spooky vibe. So I thought the ghost popping out of the wine bottle idea was maybe a little bit too cute of what I'm going for, as well as I wasn't really sure how to illustrate the airy transparency of a ghost. Maybe I'll try something like that in the upcoming weeks, but as for now, I thought that maybe I could make the spirit just be the hands that are coming out of this sort of void, this sort of inky blackness, and they are holding up the wine, which is a spirit. Again, on this one, I really, really wanted to go ham on the hatching, on the texturing, really make it just way, way over the top with the hatching, and I think I achieved that. It's maybe bordering on messy, but I like it quite a bit. I feel like it adds a lot of nice texture to the illustration, and I'm also very proud of these hands. Drawing hands is a continuous struggle for me because they either look extremely bad or quite good, and it's never ever in between. So these ones look pretty good, and I'm very happy with that. Additionally, I did the same sort of thing that I did on the previous day with the puddle, by using the sort of whiter color to give it ripples. These hands I didn't want to go over the top with shading them. I just wanted to do a simple hatch, and then I added additional contrast in places that I thought would be darker, like where the bottle would be touching the skin, or on the underside of the wrists, areas where there really wouldn't be that much light. Additionally, I tried to make the fingernails look a little scuffed up and a little bit dirty, just to try and give it a little bit more of a spooky atmosphere. Not sure how effective that was, but I don't know. I still like it quite a bit. I thought about adding an illustration on the label of the wine bottle, but I couldn't think of anything that I would like to put on there. Finally, this is not blood. It's a little bit hard to tell because I draw blood in the same color, that black, but it is just that liquid that is underneath the hands. I figured they'd be kind of drippy if they were rising up out of it, but yes, not blood this time. There you go, day 2, spirit. So for day 3, I was actually busy working on a school assignment, so I had to skip ahead to day 4. I also did this one on my iPad because it wasn't a day that I stream. I streamed almost all of these, but I did not stream this one. This day's prompt was blood, and I figured I'd go simple and classic with a lovely lady vampire. This was especially challenging because the allure of throwing in some like bright red for the blood was almost irresistible, because it would have looked fantastic against the black and white, but I'm sticking to black and white only, no colors this time. So I had to make it work with just the black and white that I had. This one's pretty light on texture. It's mostly solid chunks of color, but there is a lot of texture in the smeared blood that I put on her face, and her hair also adds the illusion of that texture. I struggled a little bit with how it was supposed to flow against the skin, so I used some reference images, but that's day 4, blood. Day 5 might get me banned. Whoops. I can't show the sketch because it would probably be read as nudity. Day 5, the word was devil. The prompt word was devil, and I figured why not go for like another admittedly cliche but classic sort of seductress, this like sexy lady is the devil kind of vibe. I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of just want to draw a beautiful woman, because a lot of the stuff I'd been drawing the last couple days was like either prop related or kind of spooky or that kind of thing. So I drew this very attractive woman in some spicy clothing, and I put a big old spotlight on her, and in her shadow I gave her devil horns. Maybe some symbolism here. Maybe I just wanted to draw a spicy lady. I really don't have that much to say about this one because I am particularly worried about it getting needing to be removed, and if that's the case, then this entire section of me talking will be removed. It did get suppressed on Instagram and stuff like that because, you know, it's a slightly inappropriate. This is also the only one I didn't show to my family so far. Whoops, sorry. You guys definitely can't, well, maybe you can hear it, but I'm blushing pretty hard thinking back on this. I don't know, man. Maybe these policies shouldn't be quite so restrictive on these platforms, but I guess, I don't know. This is one of the ones where I really leaned into using like white clipping masks and white lines to show off a lot of the texture that I was wanting, especially in her hair. And I have to get creative with how I separate colors from each other in this Inktober challenge, because just having the black and white, it's pretty challenging to manage keeping all of that with enough contrast, not really having anything overlap too intensely. That's been like the real challenge of this whole thing, is making sure that all of that contrast, all of that separation is maintained. And I can do that a couple ways. I can do that by separating with line art. I can do that by separating with, I put a white line on the outside of her figure so it would stand out a little bit more against her shadow. I can do that with texture, with the hatching, all that good stuff. So there's lots of ways I can make them stand out from each other, and I really have to think that over during this, this specific challenge here. So that was day 5, Devil. Day 6 is Infestation. This is actually based off of one of my favorite books of all time. It's The Plague by Albert... Oh no, I meant to look up the pronunciation of his name before I recorded this video. Camus? I think it's Camus because he was French. But it was written in 1947, and it is a truly great novel. It's about an outbreak of the bubonic plague in a town named Oran, I believe. I don't speak French. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed it, and this is based off one of the first pages of the book, one of the first chapters, where the rats are starting to come out of the shadows and show signs that they have been infected by the bubonic plague. So the main character, when he is introduced, he finds a rat by stepping on it, a dead rat, on his balcony. And that's sort of what this is meant to depict. The shoes in the background are of the character, I believe his name is Ryu. Again, I don't speak French, I'm sorry. But yeah, this is meant to sort of depict that scene. I wanted to make the rat, like, not look super malicious. Like, he looks sick. Like, he looks a little bit wet. He looks a little bit bloody. I probably should have added some blood to his snout now that I'm looking back on it. I think if I were to do it again, or if I were to edit it, I would add some, like, white drips of blood around his snout to really emphasize that the blood is, like, coming from him. But I didn't want him to look malicious because the rat himself is just a victim of the plague. So I wanted to make him look quite restful, peaceful, you know, that kind of thing. I did look up what kind of like style of shoes and pants were popular in the 1940s so that I could make sure that the shoes in the background were appropriate to the time period. And as you can see, I also added these little stitches on here because this is one I was planning not to do any hatches on, so the textural detail had to come from other details like those stitches, like the shoelaces, like the rivets, that kind of thing. So I was really emphasizing, and you can see on the rat's fur as well, that I had to emphasize some more texture in his fur because I was not doing the hatching. This is another situation where I'm really trying to separate things using the black and white, using the tools that I have. I think they turned out pretty good. I made the front laces white and the back laces black with a white outline, so it makes the front laces stand out a little bit more. And then I added a nice shine on the front of the shoes. And that was day 6 Infestation. Lastly, last one for the video that we're doing today is day 7 Experiment. So I could have gone in a lot of different ways with this prompt. I initially was thinking some sort of alien. I was thinking, I got a suggestion from my partner to do some sort of Frankenstein's monster. And in the end, I decided to do something that I find a little bit scarier. The Frankenstein's monster or the alien, those would theoretically be things that were experimented on. I figured it would be a little spookier to have yourself put in that position and be the one that's being experimented on. So like this doctor is experimenting on you, on people, that kind of thing. So it's a little bit more of like a POV shot of being experimented on, where this doctor is definitely the villain here. I also put this big light behind him so that I could do some rim lighting because I thought that would be pretty fun. It was sort of a lighting style that I hadn't yet tried this Inktober. I think it turned out okay. This is definitely not my favorite one of the bunch. I think my favorite one is either the alchemy one or the infestation one. I like both of those very much. I actually just finished this one today because I'm doing Inktober on the days. This is day 7 and this video is going up tomorrow on the 8th of October. So this one I have very fresh in my memory. I was having some crazy technical issues while working on it. Photoshop kept crashing. It crashed twice. So I had to redo a lot of this work more than once. It's okay. It's fine. I feel like the pose itself wasn't necessarily the best for that backlighting that I wanted to do. And I think it almost has too much texture. Because this was being rim lighted, it was difficult to figure out how to have his face in shadow while still having it stand out from different parts of his body. So there's a lot of hatching on his face, and then I felt like his face was a little bit too hatched, so I added hatching on his hat and his mask. Yeah, it feels almost a little too textured to me, and it's not consistent throughout the whole illustration. I like this blood that I was able to put on like his glasses and his mask and his hands, because in all previous days I'd used black as blood. All previous days that I'd used blood or liquid, I had used black. But I think the white actually looks really good. So day 7 Experiment. That will be all for me for this video for the first week of Inktober. I am planning to continue on doing the other weeks, so keep an eye out for videos coming in the future for those. Thank you so much for watching. This has been After Plague, and be careful.